I graduated from University of Edinburgh for my master's degree, majoring sustainable energy system. So it's basically similar to maybe in Manchester, University of Manchester, you have clean energy and renewable technology kind of thing. So it's quite similar. The differences is back in my time in University of Edinburgh, we have like I think around 60 credits where I can move and take some of the courses from different schools beyond School of Engineering. So that's where I think I recreated or reshaped my career path after graduations, because previously back in my early days as a engineer engineer background, graduated from bachelor degree. I'm mechanical engineering from University of Indonesia. And then after graduations or before graduation, I already work in renewable energy sector in solar PV EPC company in Indonesia. And then I moved to one of the European renewable energy developer or IPP company named AKWA Energy, if you may familiar with that. From solar PV, I became project engineer for wind energy development in Indonesia. We have projects with Copenhagen infrastructure partner. So one of the, I think, kind of the funding coming from Denmark, pension fund, etc., etc. After several years of working in renewable energy sector as a mostly as an engineer project development, I decided to pursue my master's degree, and then I see the opportunity to learn more holistically, I would say, in the sense that not only as an engineer, but to understand the overall business processes in the energy sector, energy industries, because that's where I think my interest in career perspective. So after graduations, I think I established myself to be more generalist or strategic persons. That's why I quite move my path from role to the business development based role. So it is quite similar between business development and project development in terms of this energy sector. The main thing is you are the one who originate the project. You are the one who try to cook the project from scratch until until operation of the plant, for example. So that's where I think the game is very challenging, yet it's quite exciting for me personally. So that's I think where I reshape my career path until now. I moved to AKWA, one of the biggest global player for energy and water industry, based from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They have presence quite everywhere, especially in Asia, Africa, and Middle East regions. I'm based in Indonesia, so basically currently not only in power or renewable sectors that we develop the projects. I may share something about the company so you can understand about the sector itself. So currently, we developing renewable power for sure, and then also water desalination infrastructure and green hydrogen facility as well. So coming from the renewable energy sector as an engineer, now I'm focusing myself to be a project development focusing on infrastructure businesses that related still with the power, energy, and water. So it's not like the infrastructures like toll road or some other things, but still in related to my interests. So that's quite exciting. So after several years of experience in this sector, energy for especially the energy sector, as well as a lot of roles that I've been try to develop over time. I think it's a very good to have to have a chance that if I can share something with you guys, and then if you want to know what is the difficulties, what is the first step to enter the career in this specific sector, what the industry need, for example, especially in the developing country like Indonesia or Southeast Asia region, because it's very different if you compare to Europe region, for example, Middle East region, Africa region, American region, and the Southeast Asia region. It's very different. It's very dynamic, and I also quite grateful that joining AKWA also give me the opportunity to interact with everyone's across the group. So that makes we share perspective, right? We share the projects, what is the challenge there, what is the challenge here, and so on and so forth. So hopefully with the very limited time, I can sharing some, useful stuffs that can benefit you all in your career. I think that's pretty much my introductions. I'll let Daniel and everyone's here if you have something to ask, something want to discuss. So the discussion is going to be quite dynamic, I would say.
Nice. Thank you, Fauzan. Very, very interesting. I actually want to learn a lot about the Asian market because I think is this the one that's gonna be increasing the most. But
Yep.
before we go into it, I thought everyone gives a very brief introduction on what they're looking for. So I'll start. So I'm Daniel Choconta. I'm from Colombia, from Bogota. Wait, sorry, let me admit it. And
That's
I've
where
been.
Luis Diaz coming from, right? No? Do you know
you're a
Luis Diaz?
you're a football addict. I can feel it. He's from the north, from
I see.
Barranquilla, but
I
it's
see.
relatively close. um, sorry. So basically, I've been in the UK 10 years now, and I started working as a gas engineer, and now I moved to project management. A fun fact about me: I like tennis and football a lot. I'm addict, so I used to go to the stadium like every week when I could.
Which club you support, Daniel, if I may to know?
Like overall, I'm Barcelona is my team.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
a Messi fan. I love Messi.
You are the Messi fan, not
Yeah,
Esteban. Okay.
yeah, no, I'm the one that loves Messi. And
Uh,
and the reason why I'm here is I really like to learn about different sectors because I think what you learn in the UK, it works in the UK and you can apply it to other places, but it's important to know the specifics of the culture of the sector. And I think when you start to connect those points, you start to have like a way bigger impact. And I'm very curious about the market in Indonesia and the whole Southeast Asia because I know it's a very growing thing. So yeah, that's the main thing I wanted to ask you a couple of things from Southeast Asia, but I'll leave that for later. Bianca, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Daniel. Hello, Bang Fauzan. We meet again. So nice to meet you, and thank you for coming to this meeting. And hello, everyone. My name is Bianika. I'm from Indonesia as well, and now I'm a student in MSc in Renewable Energy and Clean Technology. I'm here to help Daniel in the club, which is ReGen Club, to be able to learn something about renewable energy beyond just learning from the university modules. So that's why I'm here, and I'm so excited to learn more about renewable energy, especially from industries itself. Fun fact about myself is actually not really a fun fact, but I really do love to drink coffee and tea, and I cannot make my day without a cup of coffee. And thank God in British here, there are lots of tea. So yeah, I can survive here in England. So I think that's all about me. Thank you. Maybe someone can go next.
Esteban.
Okay, hello to everyone. My name is Esteban. I'm from Argentina, and I am an electrical engineer. I worked for 3 years in the distribution sector in Argentina, and I completed a master's degree also focused on renewable energy and smart grid here in the UK. I completed last September, and now, well, I am trying to get a job related to renewable energy, yes, consulting or that sector in particular. So yes, I really want to know about that sector and to apply my previous work experience and my new knowledge and new a lot of new things. And about me, well, I can say that I'm a musician. I love music. I play the piano. And regarding sports, I like cycling, and I can't live without mate.
Okay, that's interesting.
Who's the next volunteer? Jason.
Sure. So, hi guys. I'm Jason, and I knew about the community actually through Daniel. I just DM'd him on LinkedIn, and I was like, "Oh, I'm interested in energy," and he was like, "Come join this little community he created," and here I am. So a bit more about my background. I recently graduated in my undergraduate in economics, and I've done my internships in insurance and consulting, where I get to touch on a little bit on the risk advisory side of energy. And then recently, 2 months ago, I've done my internship in investment management. So I do more on the infrastructure debt side. So funding these energy projects from a debt perspective. So yeah, I'm quite interested in seeing some of these solar PV assets and learning more about the operation and technical side of renewable energy assets. So yeah, maybe a little bit more fun facts because we're talking about music, football, and coffee here. I had around 4 double shots of espresso per day. So
Wow, that's a lot.
yeah, when you
Damn,
work in
man.
investment management, that does a trick.
My stomach can't keep up with the 4 double shot, bro.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's interesting because currently I also working on one project that now working with the commercial bank to funding 100 megawatt of floating solar PV here in Indonesia. We have some terms at the moment, but still on the due diligence. So happy to share if you have any questions, especially in Indonesian sector, how challenging it is. I would say in terms of getting international funding for renewable or infrastructure projects here, because in Indonesia the challenge is not in terms of commercial technical, but surprisingly it's about environmental, social, uh, you know, uh, uh, to have these things aligned with the lender's requirement, because that things is quite challenging in developing country, because you will find a lot of not common things, for example, like cultural heritage, indigenous people, something like that. You move back a lot of ecosystem in the area, so it's quite challenging, and it's very exciting to have this kind of experience in this financing stage of the project.
Nice. Eli Olomo, is that correct? Are you the next volunteer?
Yeah, that's correct. You pronounced it exactly how it should be.
Nice.
Yes, my name is Eli Olomo. I'm also a student here, MSc React at University of Manchester. I'm from Uganda in East Africa. I have a little bit of a background in residential solar. But in Uganda, it's a small thing. So even when we talk about residential solar, it's usually very small systems. So what I'm mainly interested in is to get a feel of someone who has worked in larger scale, grid scale kind of systems. What it's like, what are some of the considerations, and the skills for someone who wants to move into that area. Interesting thing about me, I would say I'm both a scientist and an artist, because I draw, I do pencil art, I also make music. I'm an amateur music producer.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can elaborate. You can collaborate with Esteban then.
Yeah, we can collab. Sure, thank you.
Nice. Nice fact. Aulia Naurojo. Sorry if my Latin accent doesn't help me.
Yes, that's correct. Actually, it's my name is Aulia Nugro. I'm from Indonesia, but you can call me Kika. It's actually from my middle name, and I'm also a student in MSc React. A little about me. I haven't had any experience like the working experience as in a company because I just graduated from my bachelor degree last year, and before I graduated, I had been working with the research team in my university. So my role was in UI UX designer. So I kind of helped the team to design the interface of a software about the geophysical processing because my bachelor degree is in geophysics. I think that's all about me. And I want to know about the renewable stuff from renewable company as well by joining this session today. Thank you.
Thank you. Nurul Kaherani. I hope that's correct. You're still around.
Uh, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry if my voice is not really proper, as I'm on my way to back home now.
No
But can you
worries.
hear my voice clearly?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so my name is Nurul Hairani. You can call me Rani. I also from Indonesia, particularly in eastern part of Indonesia. I'm come from East Nusa Tenggara. I'm just if Fauzan know that place. I come from East Nusa Tenggara. I grew up there, and why I interested to join in this meeting session because I want to gain more knowledge about PV and also everything infrastructure about PV because in my village we face like several challenges about PV installations such as you mentioned before. It's not only about the technology but it's about the social acceptance. We face many challenges about environment and etc. So that's why I interest also in joining renewable energy as a my master degree because my background on my undergrad is in physics. That's why I'm very happy to gain more knowledge from this project. And for a fun fact about me, I don't know what should I say, but if I could say, I can like it's very easy for me to uh, gain the weight and lose weight probably in 5 kilogram in only 1 week. So I can eat a lot of food but without worrying. That's probably fun fact about me. Thank you.
We need your tips then.
Yeah. It's weird, but I accept it is a blast. Thank you, everyone.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rani.
Okay, last but not least, Irfan. Are you still around, Irfan, or you left? Okay. Well, if you come back, feel free to put your camera on and introduce. So I think it's quite nice. We have people from South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, everywhere. And I think that's one of the key things for this I call cross-pollination learning, where we start to learn from different parts and gather the good things. So I don't know if is there anyone brave that wants to start and ask anything specific to Faustin that you have in your mind that we don't want to ask someone in another context, and this is the chance. Go for it. Who wants to go first?
Would like to ask. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. You
Okay,
can go
first
first.
Esteban and then Nolia.
Okay. No, it's just about what kind of skills or mostly skills or experience the renewable energy sector is looking for in new candidates.
Okay. So I think before we jump direct to the questions, I would like to also a bit to sharing in especially in this region, Southeast Asia, I would say, because we have similar situations here, and how we are the industry look at the talent, the recruitment, the career path for young graduates and so on and so forth in the sectors. It's basically it depends on the role of each candidates on this industry. For example, in end-to-end business process of renewable energy sector, infrastructure of power plant, for example, the 2 minutes version is you have the originations, which you try to see the opportunity to develop projects from scratch, whether it comes from unsolicited activities, meaning you are the one who do the research that, okay, the conclusion is this region, this specific place is needs certain megawatt of power plant capacity to increase the economics, the accessibility of energies whatsoever to these regions. Or you come to develop because the government of that region is having the planning to do such infrastructure execution in several years. For example, Vietnam has their own energy plan. In the next 8 years, they will build around 3 or 4 gigawatt of renewable energy, and then they make some planning how to get things done to achieve that target. Same like Indonesia, we have 10-year planning of these infrastructures. That's why Daniel also mentioned Southeast Asia is a very emerging country, because our governments in this region is quite, ambitious, I will say. Indonesia, for example, in the next 10 years, the new capacity of renewable is up to 65 gigawatts. So it's equivalent, I think, around thousand of USD, billion of USD's investment. So that makes everyone is try to coming and then open the jobs, make some businesses because of this enabler from the government. And then after the origination, you will have the contracting period, I would say. The contract mean when you have the commitment. If you are the one who built the power plant, you need to have the off-taker agreement with the with the people, with the party that buy your electricity under, for example, in PPA, power purchase agreement. And then after that, you have constructions. And this is the scope that all the technical guy and project management guys is there. You have only 15 months, for example, to build 100 megawatts of solar PV in certain areas. So you need to think out of the box how to get things done about that. And then after that, we have COD, right? The operational debt. You have long-term contract with your buyer, 20 years, 25 years, to make sure that every month, every years, your power plant is running well. You get paid by them, and then you pay your lenders interest and so on and so forth. So this is the 5 major stages in the business on this in sector, right? So in that sense, we need every talent in every sector. We don't only need the electrical engineer, for example. We also need a low graduate expert that understand enough in the energy sector, because the contract scheme is very different when you have the energy sector legal arrangement compared to, for example, the contract in toll road infrastructure, for example. It's very different, and that's why in some universities, if you pay attention to that, some of the universities open a major that specifically for the young lawyers for the energy sectors, because we have the different types of contract and legal arrangements, so on and so forth. And then from the financing steps, because most of the infrastructures will have the scheme, we call it non-recourse project financing, meaning that you have for example, you have 100 million USD investment, but actually you as the project owner only spend like 20 million of that, and the rest of 80 millions you will have the funding from the bank, but you don't put any liability. You put, okay, the bank funding you 80 million, but what I can give you is the asset, is the project. You as the owner have no liability if something happened with the project. So this kind of thing also needs some extra work and arrangement that people coming from the finance background also need it, right? So my point is, depends on what roles you want to pursue. Actually, the renewable energy sector is the very emerging sector that in multidiscipline talent can have their career in this sector. So it depends on what your interest, but also it depends on what role you want to involve. And if you ask me about what kind of talent as a youngsters compared to the others, I think the basic things currently, especially in the emerging market like Southeast Asia, we move fast, meaning either you have previous experience or maybe academic background, or something you have previously interned in some of the relevant uh, company or whatsoever, that proves you can adapt fast enough to the market. And secondly, because the market is so emerging, you expect high competition. Because here in Indonesia, for example, even when I have tried to open 1 or 2 times of job vacancy back in my company, and I put 1 to 3 years experiences, the applicant in Indonesia only is more than 200 within a week. Because the very emerging market, and then as I mentioned, that the government enable the opportunity for the investment for the business to grow, makes all people, including the business owners, including the young talents, have put the same interest to this, and then everyone comes to these sectors. So to be able to differentiate yourself to the other talents, not by convincing only the interviews, but to make sure you can show them that not only you are capable, but also you can adapt fast enough to the sector. Yeah, I think that's the key. And how to prove it, either you have developed yourself by have some intern somewhere, or you have the academic background to support it, or currently you basically can learn everywhere, right? In terms of reducing the gap of knowledge and skill set in this sector. Maybe it helps, Esteban, or please let me know if I haven't answered your questions correctly.
It's answered. Thank you very much.
Can I ask another question, or if the session hasn't started yet?
Sure, Oli.
Okay. For my question is, how's your point of view for the renewable energy graduates or will graduate later, if they want to find a work in an environment or in a country that is the country hasn't had the sector of renewable energy that much, or the country still has like very limited or not as many as the mining sector, let's say. And how is your point of view in that? And what could be their strength for the renewable energy graduates to, if they want still to apply to the mining sector or the conventional energy company?
Okay, that's a very good question. Allow me to answer it very direct and pragmatically, right? It depends on your goals on the career. I mean, if you want a stability in your career, you get paid well, and then you don't worry about your career, you don't worry about your future, then every industry, you're allowed to choose any industry you want, including if you want to go to the mining sectors and so on and so forth. Because me personally, I'm not a warrior of 100% need to be renewable and so on and so forth. In my case, I believe we need to find balance between energy transition and then keep utilizing what we currently have, for example, like conventional energy, gas, coal, whatever. Because at some point, you need to find the equilibrium of these things. You can't force anything too much on one of these, sectors. Of course, if you push too hard on the conventional energy, not only about the environmental harm, but also you will be run out of resources eventually. But if you try to transitioning too fast or forcing too much, you can't keep up. For example, with the reliability, for example, because we know that renewable energy is most of them are intermittent. If not, it's difficult and costly and need more time to build, like geothermal, like hydro, and so on and so forth. So in order to keep up with this thing, you need to find a balance. So that's where I think, for example, in Indonesia region, the government also have some medium long-term planning. They don't state that, okay, by 10 years we are 100% renewable. It doesn't make sense. You will pay 10, 20 times electricity price higher than now if we force to do that. So back to the question, what is my view in terms of if you want to chase or pursue your career in whatever sectors? It depends on your career objective goals. For me, that's the most important thing. I began my journey in renewables energy sector where every of my colleague friends in my bachelor's is not pursuing renewable energy at all. Because back then, graduated from mechanical engineering, the top of mind of career is Schlumberger, Mott McDermott, the oil and gas companies, Total, Chevron, and so on and so forth. But me personally, because I tried to see what the global trends back then, like even from 10 years ago, even though in Indonesia back then, the renewable energy is just a narrative story, it's just a speech, it's just not, there's no single large project happened back then. But I know in developed country like Europe, for example, they already built that narrative and also implementation for the last 20 years. Secondly, we, in my opinion, we live in the economy ecosystem which the industry will follow where the capital goes. So when there are a Paris Agreement, which agreed by more than 160 countries, I think, I forget the number. That means all the capital, all the fundings, all the money will also follow what that kind of agreement. In that sense, all the bank, development bank, government, lenders try to make some condition where they are very difficult to support the conventional infrastructure like coal and gas, but they give more incentives when it comes to the renewable, sustainable infrastructures. So it change the market, and eventually Indonesia also will change. If you are let's say the president of Indonesia, you have plenty of coal, you have plenty of gas and oil reserves, and you can make the electricity price very cheap because you have all the resources. But you don't have money, you don't have the investor to come in, you don't have the funding to build those kind of infrastructures. So it makes us difficult also to do that. So to be able to balancing all of that, Indonesia also, okay, I also would like to make this plan for the renewable, sustainable, achieve SDG goals, achieve net zero goals, because this is what everyone's globally agree, because we have Paris Agreement, we want to reduce the temperature increase globally and so on and so forth. And for me, thankfully, I think after COVID, I would say, then Indonesia starts quite aggressively. Like every year, projects, renewables happened, constructions from the small scale residentials. Now we have regulation that support the rooftop industrial implementation here in Indonesia. We have like 17 gigawatt plan in the next 5 years and so on and so forth. So that's where the the narrative eventually comes. So again, hopefully we can see the market, we can see the career path, we can see the industry that we want to join, not only from the narrow perspective, but we can try to see, you can take a step back and then see what will be the next 3-5 years trend whatsoever. That might help to to eventually choose what the career path you want to pursue.
Can I just add to that, which I think it's interesting, is at the end, you're part of the global context. So also, like, for example, right now, the situation in the UK with immigration, it's very complicated. They're very strict. So it depends on how you approach it, because you might say, okay, in the UK right now, there's a lot of tightness in terms of immigration rules and all of that, but not everywhere in the world is the same situation. So there's a lot of, for example, Spain, they're looking for many people because they actually have the opposite problem where many people left the country. So it start to I say think yourself as a company, and you have to be strategic about, okay, I want to work in this area, but right now the political situation in the UK it's very dense on immigration. I can still apply, but what about what happens in Spain? Let's see if there's also a role there, or if you want to go back home. And I think it's having that global picture of something that, for example, right now, my first job was in the gas sector, and half of my team got slacked and they got kicked away because the gas sector was basically like there's still jobs because we need the sector, but it's not growing. And when it's not growing, well, there's less jobs, there's less money, so they hire less people. So I started to feel that something was happening. So I started to speak internally with my bosses and say, I want to move to electrical, I want to move to project management. Because I could feel when you start to read the news and you start to feel like, oh, there's gonna be a change. So my invitation is also like play the game of find out what's happening, start to see where you can put yourself there. Because at the end, everything it's around the macro perspective, and if there's no jobs, you can be great, amazing, but you still have to add value to the market somehow. So it's, yeah, position yourself on something that you like and aligns with what is happening in the overall context.
Agree, totally agree. And small addition from me. I think the one thing that I can give an advice for, let's say for the young or fresh graduates, compared to what happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Now, the skills of being agile is very important. The skills that you can be adaptive and you can try to be agile to the conditions that change every time. As Daniel mentions, we can say these things right now, but we don't know in the next 5 years what will be the global trends, what will happen in each region. So I think that's very interesting to take a step back and look from broader perspective, especially when we are speaking about the career path.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Fauzan and Daniel, for the insight.
Who's the next brave one?
Um,
Okay, let's go first, Olmo, and then Jason.
yes. So you've mentioned about the level of competition for the roles that are available. So my question is, how best do you think would you advise a person to present their maybe past experience, even if it may not be exactly similar to the role, or past academic training? How best should they present that, such that when you're doing your initial screening, you can look at and say, okay, yeah, this person, I would want to speak to him. and then
Yeah. So Ali, I tried to answer, but based on my very experience, and then I think it's relevant with what we have at the moment. So one thing that I believe we need to take this at the advantage of this era is about the access informations, right? So being known or being acknowledged, and people can see you, people can see your work, what you have done in previous experience, previous work, previous academics. You literally can put it and make public available. For example, like LinkedIn and so on and so forth. In my case, that's very helpful because at the end of the day, when people are screening for talent, the very easy thing is to make them easy to see you and to learn about you in a very easiest way. That's the first thing. And second thing, again, from the access and because of this kind of era, I believe the impression and the recommendation, the positive testimony, the positive feedback from your colleagues, from your lecturers, from your professor, from your previous coworkers is also helpful to bring confidence to your next employer. I joined AKWA. I've gone through like I think five in total 5 interviews in from Saudi, from Dubai, from Singapore, wherever lah. It's too much interview at the moment. However, the first stage that they contacted me and they approached me is because someone recommend me, because someone speak good about us, speak positive about us, because of course, the very first thing to do is you need to be good at what you do. You need to be consistent. You need to be positive to what you want to achieve for your career path in the future. But the fact that now the information is seamless to everyone, so make sure that you also be surrounded by people who can also give a good impression from you to the others. So like letter of recommendation, something like that, to be attached in your CV or resume, it's very helpful. I have the letter of recommendation from my previous bosses, previous professor, and then the new employers basically can also contact them because it's easy now to contact everyone's across the globe, and then they kind of like make sure that okay, this person is aligned with what they have wrote in their CV and whatsoever. So I think that the best way possible to at least make us visible to the market, make us different from the other candidates, for example, because we bring some values that makes our potential new employees more confident and more comfortable, even we don't really know you in person for such a long time. Hope that answers your questions, Ali.
Jason?
Sure. I mean, I think there was a lot of different kinds of career-related questions, but I wanted to ask you more about some of the technical experience you have with solar PV. So especially in the UK, when we're talking about, the financing side, we have, CFD, contracted revenue for renewable assets. But for Indonesia and also in some parts in Southeast Asia, I was wondering whether there's certain similar mechanism for contracted revenue or price agreement on that sense.
So it's difficult to say because one thing first, in Indonesia, it's a monopolized market. If you guys aware Indonesia, what currently happened in Indonesia is we only have one off-taker, that they are the state-owned enterprises. So they are the regulator and they are the sole off-taker who buy the electricity coming from IPP companies. In that sense, it it makes everything very different if we want to compare UK, for example, or many of European countries, which in Europe we know that they have inter region grid connectivity. So you can buy you are in Poland, you can buy electricity from Germany, for example. That's not happening in Indonesia. Even we have plenty of islands, right? Indonesia has plenty of islands. We have 5 big main islands. Even in these 5 big main islands, we couldn't connect the electricity to each island. So it makes everything very difficult for us to try to adapt what that already done in the different in the other countries to us, because we need to adapt what suit us the best. So in that sense, I don't think that mechanism, as you mentioned, now currently being applied in UK, will be applied in the very short term in Indonesia. We have a pretty straightforward mechanism from the contracting point of view, that we have a single long-term power purchase agreement with the off-taker, 20-25 years, either build, own, operate, or build, own, operate, and transfer in the end of the terms. Even we couldn't sell or share our we couldn't transfer our shares in the company before we have certain period of time in the early beginning of the projects, because it will somehow make our off-taker uneasy in a way that they basically the boss, right? I mean, they are the sole boss. So what they want, they just write it down in the contract, and you like it or not, sometimes you need to take it. And it also makes it's very difficult for the lenders, international lenders, for example, to come in Indonesia, because international lenders used to very familiar with very advanced things, like you said, the very various mechanism in the developed country. But when they are coming to Indonesia, I think the challenge is very different. They need to learn from zero. They need to adapt their thinking, because of the situation in the country is very different to them. So it makes very limited variations on the pricing mechanism whatsoever that can be happen in this country, I would say.
Cool, thank you. Just maybe just one more question on that. Maybe other than pricing mechanism, is there any sort of challenges in Southeast Asia, for example, that's causing the developments in renewable energy? I mean, you've said there's a lot of incentive from the public sector, but I was just wondering on the private sector sense, what's kind of the barriers on that?
It's so I will try to answer it by benchmarking only on 3 countries, because I think in terms of renewable energy sectors, only Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam has the quite big potentials in these regions. Vietnam is a socialist country, so when the government say A, and then everyone will follow. That's a good thing about them. Back in 2013, 2014, I think, they have very insignificant renewable energy fractions in the grid compared to other countries, for example, like Indonesia. But they call it energy development program, something like that. So it's like an 8-year program. So in 2022, which is 8 years after that, the renewable energy fractions surpass Indonesia, because the commitment from the government is very important for the developing country to achieve things. For example, in the public sector infrastructure. Whereas Indonesia, the challenge is we are the democracy country. So every 5 years, our presidents may change. Every 5 years, the political party who run the country may change, which they may have different interests, especially in the public sector infrastructure. So you couldn't have kind of like certainty in the medium to long term on these sectors. Makes very difficult for us to achieve targets, because in the public sector infrastructure, it's not about 1-2 years projects. Even in hydro, geothermal, it needs more than 6-7 years. Can you imagine when you try to develop the hydro projects, and then after 5 years you haven't construct the project, but the political party who basically run the country is changing, and then they have another idea. Oh, I don't want hydro. I want solar PV, for example, and then everything falls. So that's a challenge. The political certainty, or I will say, the the government willingness is the challenge of Indonesia and Philippines as well, because Philippines is basically the one who run the country is families. So only certain group of people. Well, this is something that quite how to say quite well known, that where some of group of political peoples that coming from the same family backgrounds is having the strength, political strength within the region. It's not only Philippines, it also happens in pretty much everywhere. So basically these kind of things, I think the challenge of the uncertainty in terms of political and government country level perspective is making these regions not fulfilling their potentials quite significant.
Thank you. Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, I think it's almost 2. Oh, last one from Nuru, or who's first? I think there's a list. Yeah, Nuru.
Thank you, Daniel, for the opportunity. Actually, my questions come before Fauzan mentioned the answer from Jason. It's quite similar. My question is, in real projects, things are much more dynamic, like compared to what we learn in the universities. And you also really highlight the funding challenge and the need to become adaptable in renewable energy sector, and of course the political interest. And so through those uncertainty, from your experience, what are the maybe main factors that make renewable energy projects, especially in Indonesia, but probably that you have developed before? It's what is the main factor that make it difficult to develop, and how you or people as a professionals navigate those challenges in practice? And based on your experience, especially for PV, what is the biggest challenge when moving from the planning to the actual implementation in solar? Especially in developing country like Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rani. So I will try to answer this on the 3 stages of this project cycle. First, the origination. Again, as I mentioned, we need to align with the government's planning. So I mentioned also before that the government may change every 5 years and so on and so forth. So basically, it doesn't mean that we can do anything about it, right? So what we can do basically as a professional, as a business players, industry players, so on and so forth, is we try to support the government. We try to convince them. We work together with the other players in the country that, okay, this is something that we want to do. If you want the economy, you want the investment ecosystem is still healthy in this country. So when it comes, because what we do is to invest, right, in this country, to build infrastructure and so on and so forth. So and that's in that sense, we can try to push, we can try to talk to them to make some of the long-term commitment. So they, as I mentioned, eventually they have like 10 years electricity planning, for example, or at least this period of time is good enough for us as industry players to focus and supporting their ambitions, their goals, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things, even though we still have the political uncertainty, I think if the industry players come together, have the same interests, to make the investment ecosystem in this country still healthy, we can talk to them and we can find a middle ground with the government, for example. That's the very first thing to do. And second one, from after planning, from the execution point of view, I think one of the interesting part, I would say, to construct the PV, for example, especially PV in Indonesia, is we currently have, we call it local content requirement for the supply chain point of view. Because we know currently, I think more than 80%, if I'm not mistaken, the main components for solar PV coming from China, from the solar PV modules, inverters, batteries, BSS, for example. So we have pros and cons on that one, because if government wants to have a low tariffs, so we need main equipment that can afford us with the best cost, right? So it comes from China. Also, they already proven they sold gigawatts of portfolio and so on and so forth. However, it also not allowing the local industry to develop. Let's say Indonesia now is planning to do the electricity export to Singapore over 10 to 15 gigawatts of solar PV. And when we do that, if we do that, but we import every main component from other countries, we are not allowing our local industry to also develop. So there are some parties to also fight for it. We support the energy transition, but also we need to make sure that internally in this country, if the industry is developed, we also developing the related industry beyond or within the energy or power sectors. These back and forth discussions sometimes delaying the progress of the projects, because a lot of bureaucracy need to be met. That's the second challenge in Indonesia. You want to build the PV project, for example. In UK, you may only need 3-4 licenses and permits. In Indonesia, it's 30-40 permits you need to obtain. So I don't know in other countries. For what I know, in the Middle East, for example, all the permits will fall under the government, will fall under the off-taker. They are the one who take care of the permits, the land, the location. So the IPP come in, construct, operation for 20-25 years, and then get paid. In Indonesia, you need to do pretty much everything, including if you use the forestry island and you cut down one trees, you need to pay those compensation over one trees. You need to count every trees that you cut down because you use that particular land. You need to have all the land permits. You need to purchase the land. If you build 100 hectares of PV projects, 100 hectares mean more than 200 landowners. You need to pay everyone, the landowners. You are the one who do that. So Jason, coming to my question, how the lenders will see this, right? I mean, it's very difficult and complicated from the lender's point of view as well, because there many risks will happen if you do such project and invite too much parties to construct the projects. So I have one reference in Indonesian projects for renewable energy that delays more than 3 years because they can't secure the land. Because the land is very sensitive, because you can't force people to sell their land to you, but their specific land is the most potential location for you to build a wind turbine, for example. So it's very difficult to overcome those challenges. Meanwhile, in the operational point of view, we have, I think, more than 7 or 11 gigawatts of current operational of renewable. I didn't hear any that major challenges from the operational point of view, because I think once it's operational, I think it's much more manageable than the process before, from the planning until the constructions. Hope that answered the question, Rani.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Fauzan. I hope. Oh, do you still have time, Fauzan? Because I'm aware we're past.
Sure. One last shot. One last
Okay, the
shot.
last one.
Abdullah, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for your insights and sharing your expertise with us. And thank you also to Daniel and the team who organized the
And
session,
Bianca, please. She did the
and
hard
Bianca
work.
as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Bianca.
Thank you. I have a really quick question, Mr. Ahmed. You said you recommend attaching a recommendation letter with the CV or in applications in general. So, how exactly should we reference the people at the end of the CV, for example, or how
Oh,
exactly?
sorry, my mic is open. Please continue.
Hi, uh, am I audible now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Abdullah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I said like how we should provide the recommendation letters that you said you recommend us to attach with the applications. Should they be like a references at the end of the CV, and then like the company, if they wanted, they can reach out to those people, or how exactly?
Yeah. Thank you, Abdullah, for the questions. A very good question. There are two things. When you apply, and if there's a system like you upload things, so it's easier because you can basically upload the different file on it, right? And some of the applications I used to also apply with some of the companies that they have the special form or to be filled, and then we can upload the reference of the former colleague, former supervisor, and so on and so forth, and then you can attach a supporting file on it. The second way, this is what I can recommend if you don't have such things. For sure, in your resume, you will write down your previous experience, right? For example, work experience. You say, okay, I perform this, I lead this, I manage this, and so on and so forth. You can put the link in the below of your table or whatever in that specific previous. You can put the link that they can click basically, and you already upload this supporting reference in your shared Google Drive, whatever, that they can access. So you don't need to put like 10, sorry, you put like additional 5 pages of recommendation, reference letter, whatsoever. But you make sure that you make them have the access if somehow they will try their luck to, check your reference. If my case before, I always ask for permission, for example, to my previous bosses, to my previous professor, that I will, I'll put their email. So in the case that they are being contacted, I already have the permission from my referral. So that's something we can do, simple but not, you know, be annoying because you upload like 10 pages of CV with all the attachment.
Thank you so
I,
much.
to that one, I'll add something that I did. It works mainly with small companies because big companies they have a very long, tedious process.
Process.
So in my honesty, I'll tell you if you're looking for a job, I'll go straight away small, medium-sized companies now. But what I did that worked for me is I had this web page where I recorded myself for 2 minutes, and at the end of the email I put the link. Because when now that I'm on the other side of the table and I look at the CV, it's like, oof, this is like too much information. And in reality, I just want to know if the person is enthusiastic, if they have energy, if they have the drive to go and work. Because at the end, that's what we want. Like you can teach many things, but the drive and the wanting to work, that's something that is very hard. And just by the fact that you guys are here, I could imagine that you have that drive and you want that. So it's how do you show that to the employee? because the employee is a bit worried and saying, oh, if I hire him and he's not good, I'm gonna have to fire him. And in the UK, it's very hard to fire someone. And that's one of the fears. It's not that they don't want you, it's that they're afraid that you might not be a good talent and they're gonna have to fire you at some point, and it's very hard in the UK to fire someone. So what I did for me personally was that small video, 2 minutes. You show who you are and what value do you bring. Always think what, don't say, oh yeah, I'm amazing and I want to do this. No, what are you gonna help them? Always make them about them. Like, how can I, like, I'm gonna help you do this, or the other thing. And that got me my first job. So I'm not saying it's gonna work every time, but it might help you.
Well, we need to be creative.
Yeah,
Daniel
you need
have
to be
the
creative.
yeah, has his way. I having my
Exactly.
way. So
Find your own way.
yeah.
That's the key message. Find your own way that it's gonna show that you're good. You know you're good. Now show that to the public, and you're gonna find your own way on how to do that. Everyone has his own ways, so just play around. The worst thing is that they don't reply. So
Yeah, exactly.
okay. No, I think it was a great session, Faustin. Thank you very much. And just to finalize, I wanted to do this exercise of what book, what podcast, or something that you recommend that it's helping you
Oh,
stay activated. I think this life is always about being hungry for more knowledge. So what would you recommend?
so basically, so the interesting fact of me that I aside of loving sport like football, tennis, but I think I love watching or listening for humor. So my podcast mostly about Matt Rife, like the stand-up comedian. Matt Rife.
Think so.
He's,
My
he's,
drive.
he's yeah, he's very funny. I watch
Okay.
him a lot. That's for still make me sane, about this kind of thing. But if you want to the
Uh,
reference that I think it's on public, but it's very useful to understand the how basically the world works in terms of economy, in terms of countries. Their book called How the Country Brooks. So I will send to Bianca the detail of the writer. I forgot the writer. So how the country broke. So basically that opens up how basically this economy world works. So it drive everything. As you mentioned, Daniel,
mm,
it drive many things happen globally. So how the country broke. I
okay,
think
yeah. Sounds good. Pass the name to Bianca and hopefully we read it. I had this thing that leaders are readers, so we need to start reading more or listening to podcasts, whatever. Okay. No, thank you very much, Pausen. Amazing session. Thank you. Because it's 9:15, so I hope you're gonna watch your football game. Enjoy the
thank
weekend.
you. So
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Hope to catch you up again, everyone. So have a good day.
Take care. Thank you. I'll
Thank you
see
so
you.
much. Have a
Thank
Bye.
good
you very
day.
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
And thank you,
Bye.
Bye.
Bianca. Well done.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.